Good afternoon, everyone. This is the news with b.c.begley. I am your host, and it's Tuesday, November the 11th, 2025, and let's roll right into the top news stories for today. The Senate ended its 41-day government shutdown stalemate late on Monday night by advancing a bipartisan funding package to reopen the government. 8 Senate Democrats broke with their party to join the Republicans, providing the crucial votes needed to send the bill, a countering resolution paired with 3 spending measures, back to the House. The deal includes back pay and protections for furloughed federal workers, as well as a promise to hold a future vote on expiring Obamacare subsidies by mid-December. Although Senate Democrats did not secure the subsidy deal that they wanted, several said reopening the government and safeguarding federal employees took priority, Fox News has reported. The House is expected to consider the legislation later this week, with Speaker Mike Johnson signaling plans to move quickly once it arrives. Astronomers studying interstellar comet 3I Atlas have found evidence that its surface has been altered by galactic cosmic ray processing, suggesting the comet's outer layers are not pristine material from another star system. Detected in July, 3I Atlas is the third confirmed interstellar object, and its unusually high carbon dioxide to water ratio puzzled researchers. After testing various formation and chemical scenarios, scientists concluded that long-term exposure to cosmic rays likely transformed carbon monoxide into carbon dioxide, forming an organic, rich, irradiated crust. This means the comet's current outgassing comes only from material processed over billions of years, masking the original composition beneath, IFL Science has reported. While disappointing for those hoping to study unaltered interstellar material, the comet still offers a unique opportunity to explore how cosmic rays shape objects traveling between the stars. A growing number of House Democrats and progressive groups are now demanding that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer step down after several Senate Democrats broke ranks to vote for the bipartisan deal reopening the government. Critics argue that Schumer has failed to unite his caucus and is out of touch with the party's base, with lawmakers such as Representatives Rashida Tlaib, Seth Moulton, Ro Khanna, and Sylvia Garcia among those calling for his resignation. Progressive organizations, including Indivisible and Move On, have launched campaigns urging senators to replace him, reflecting wider frustration with his leadership in the Trump-era political climate. Despite the backlash, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries publicly defended Schumer, praising his efforts during the shutdown, Axios has reported. For now, Schumer's position appears secure as no Senate Democrats have joined the calls for his removal. At least 8 people were killed and 20 others injured on Monday after a car exploded near Delhi's Red Fort, which is a popular tourist area. Authorities say a slow-moving vehicle exploded at a traffic light, igniting nearby cars and rickshaws, and causing a massive fire. Police have opened a case under anti-terrorism laws, but have yet to identify the cause or any suspects, saying it is, quote, too premature to determine whether it was a terrorist attack. Home Minister and the Defense Minister have pledged a full investigation, while Prime Minister Narendra Modi vowed that the perpetrators, quote, will not be spared, NBC News has reported. Security has been tightened across Delhi and neighboring states, with major transport hubs and landmarks placed on high alert as investigators search for clues in one of the capital's deadliest blasts in years. A suicide bomber attacked outside a district court in Islamabad on Tuesday, killing 12 people and injuring 27 others when explosives detonated near a police vehicle during a busy court session. Witnesses described chaotic scenes, with the blast heard for miles. The attack was claimed by Jamaat al-Ahrar, a breakaway faction of the Pakistani Taliban, which has carried out smaller attacks in recent years. Authorities said the bomber tried to enter the court, but failed, and then targeted a police car, the Associated Press has reported. The Interior Minister accused, quote, Indian-backed elements and Afghan Taliban proxies of involvement, though investigations into all aspects of the explosion are ongoing. Archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar claim to have found evidence that may be the remnants of Noah's Ark near Mount Ararat in Turkey, The scans revealed a hall-like shape, angular structures, and a central 13-foot passage, with indications of 3 underground layers, aligning with the biblical description of the ark's decks. Soil tests conducted by the team detected higher organic content and elevated potassium levels inside the formation when compared to the surrounding areas, which they suggest could result from decayed wood. Researchers also observed differences in vegetation and a potential tunnel running through the formation, supporting the hypothesis of a man-made structure rather than a natural geological feature, the Express has reported. The team now plans to expand soil sampling, perform core drilling, and conduct further GPR studies to determine whether the site is indeed consistent with Noah's Ark described in the Bible. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has repeatedly floated the idea of recreating Gran Colombia, the early 19th century republic that included present-day Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Panama, as a response to U.S. military actions targeting drug traffickers in the Caribbean and the Pacific. Speaking in Santa Marta, Petro suggested that a regional union, akin to the European Union, with a common parliament and a shared leadership, could help Latin American nations counter U.S. pressure. He framed the proposal as a continuation of Simon Bolivar's vision of regional unity and independence from external interference. Petro's aide then downplayed the remarks as symbolic, emphasizing brotherhood and regional peace rather than an actual merger of nations, the Miami Herald has reported. The comments come amid rising tensions with President Donald Trump, who recently sanctioned Petro, accusing him of involvement in drug trafficking. The USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier strike group has entered the Latin American region, escalating U.S. military presence in the Caribbean. This, according to 2 U.S. officials. Ordered by President Donald Trump last month, the deployment adds to existing forces already in the area, which include 8 warships, a nuclear submarine, and an F-35 aircraft. Officials did not specify the carrier's exact location, but confirmed it is within the U.S. Southern Command's area of responsibility, covering extensive parts of the ocean near Latin America, USA Today has reported. The move has heightened tensions with Venezuela amid ongoing regional pressures. Okay, here's a look at the live weather radar from the National Weather Service, and now let's look at the National Weather Forecast for today. Unseasonably cold weather continues along the southeast coast and Florida today, with temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal and possible record lows. The central United States is experiencing a warm-up, while the east will start to moderate by Wednesday as the upper low moves into Canada. Lake effect snow will persist across the lower Great Lakes and the interior northeast, with 4 to 8 inches expected by Thursday morning. Winter weather advisories and snow warnings remain in effect for these areas. And out west, an approaching atmospheric river will bring heavy rain and mountain snow to California beginning late Wednesday, with a risk of flash flooding and winter storm watches in place for the Sierra. Over 50 passengers were rescued after a catamaran sank off the coast of the Dominican Republic while ferrying tourists from the cruise ship Mein Schiff 1. The vessel, which is named Boca de Yuma 1, unexpectedly took on water during a shore excursion and fully submerged, prompting a rapid rescue by the Dominican Navy. All passengers were reported safe, with no injuries, and have since returned back to the cruise ship, which is en route from New York to Montego Bay, Jamaica. TUI Cruises confirmed that the incident involved an external excursion provider and emphasized that guest safety remains the top priority, the Mirror has reported. Authorities and the cruise line are conducting a thorough investigation to determine the cause and prevent similar incidents in the future. Iraq held a parliamentary election on Tuesday under tight security, with 8,703 polling stations open nationwide, though turnout was low in the early hours. Only 21.4 million of 32 million eligible voters registered, down from 24 million in 2021, and the influential satirist movement boycotted the vote, keeping many supporters home, particularly in Sadr City. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, running for a second term, did cast his ballot and emphasized the importance of peaceful transfers of power while security forces worked to prevent any unrest. Violence did erupt in Kirkuk overnight, leaving 2 police officers dead amid tensions between rival groups in the ethnically mixed city, ABC News has reported. Allegations of vote buying and corruption prompted arrest ahead of the vote, and the election date itself may face legal challenges, as Iraq's Supreme Judicial Council noted the vote was held earlier than constitutionally scheduled. United States President Donald Trump met Monday at the White House with Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, marking the first visit by a Syrian leader to Washington. The meeting focused on Syria joining the U.S.-led coalition against ISIS, reopening the Syrian embassy in Washington, and expanding economic cooperation, including potential American investment and plans to lift Caesar Act sanctions. Al-Sharaa and President Trump also discussed integrating the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces, also known as the SDF, into the Syrian army, and a potential security agreement between Syria and Israel to stabilize the border. Ahead of the visit, the United Nations Security Council removed al-Sharaa from the terrorism blacklist, and the U.S. Treasury delisted him as a specially designated global terrorist, Axios has reported. The White House kept the visit low profile, with no formal Oval Office welcome or joint photos, signaling cautious diplomacy as the United States works to rebuild relations with Syria. Thieves broke into Syria's National Museum in Damascus, stealing several ancient Roman-era statues, officials confirmed on Tuesday. The museum, which houses priceless antiquities and had recently reopened after Syria's civil war and the fall of the Assad regime, was temporarily closed following the heist. Authorities reported that 6 marble statues were taken from the classical department, and investigations are underway, with museum guards and other individuals being questioned. The stolen items came from a section containing artifacts from the Hellenistic, Roman, and Byzantine periods, an area described as historically rich, the Associated Press has reported. The theft follows years of conflict that have already damaged Syria's cultural heritage, including the destruction of parts of Palmyra by ISIS in 2015. The Shenzhou 20 crew, stranded at China's Tiangong space station, is reported to be in good condition, working and living normally, China's Manned Space Engineering Office has said on Tuesday. Their scheduled November 5th return back to Earth was delayed after the spacecraft was believed to have been struck by a small piece of space debris. The return has been postponed to an unspecified date, with the mission team conducting tests and drills in the meantime. The astronauts arrived at the Tiangong space station back in April and were completing a 6-month rotation, the Associated Press has reported. Meanwhile, the Shenzhou 21 mission successfully docked on November the 1st, marking the first time mice had been sent for experiments aboard the station, as China continues to advance its space program, with plans for a moon landing by the year 2030. Israel's Knesset passed the first reading of a bill introducing the death penalty for terrorism, with a vote of 39 to 16. Proposed by a far-right national security minister, the bill targets individuals who kill Israelis out of racist motives and intend to harm the state of Israel and the Jewish people. Critics argued the law would primarily affect Palestinians, rather than Jewish extremists committing attacks on Palestinians. Similar legislation has failed in previous attempts, and the bill still must pass second and third readings to become law, Al Jazeera has reported. Supporters say its goal is to deter terrorism at its root and impose a strong punishment. Typhoon Fenghuang passed through the northwestern Philippines on Monday, causing floods, landslides, power outages, and at least 18 deaths before weakening into a tropical storm over the South China Sea and then moving toward Taiwan. The storm struck northeastern Aurora province with 115-mile-per-hour winds as a super typhoon, following Typhoon Kalmegi, which killed at least 232 people. Several provinces in the Philippines suffered fatalities and widespread damage, with landslides killing multiple children and villagers. Over 1.4 million people evacuated to shelters or relatives' homes, and more than 4,100 houses were damaged. Flooding trapped some residents on rooftops, NBC News has reported. Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. declared a state of emergency, and ongoing rains continue to pose risks while schools, government offices, and flights were disrupted in the disaster-prone country. Today is November 11th, 2025, and on this day in history, in the year 1918, World War I ended when the Allies and Germany signed an armistice. In 1921, the tomb of the unknown soldier was dedicated at Arlington National Cemetery to honor unidentified American soldiers who had died in war. And in 1989, Germans began tearing down the Berlin Wall, symbolizing the end of the Cold War division between East and West Germany. November 11th is also Veterans Day. Okay, it's 16 past the hour. We'll do a quick market update. Hey, real quick, I apologize for the late start. I was a little slow getting the show together this morning. I'm not used to live shows and putting together a live show at a time. I'm used to just doing, my little short news videos. So I need to get in a good, proper rhythm so that I can get this timing down pat and get this show down pat on how to put it together. So I'll keep working on that. That's my bad. I'm sorry. We usually start at 12 noon. Eastern Standard Time today and yesterday. We started at 1 p.m. because I'm just not in a rhythm on putting the show together. Anyway, let's get back to the market update. The S&P 500 is up 0.18%. The NASDAQ is down 0.31%. Gold is down 0.09%. Oil is up 1.45%. Bitcoin is down 2.57%. Yikes. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 0.90%. Now let's go into our last block of news for today. The show might be a little bit shorter than usual. That's just because I had trouble getting the show together. Like I said, I need to find my rhythm. So we'll go into the last block of news for today. Operators of Camp Mystic are facing 3 separate lawsuits from families of some of the 27 people who died during Texas's catastrophic July 4th floods, which claimed over 130 lives across central Texas. The lawsuits allege wrongful death and negligence, claiming the camp prioritized profit over safety, failed to implement evacuation plans, and ordered campers to remain in flood-prone cabins despite repeated warnings. One lawsuit notes the camp sits in, quote, flash flood alley along the Guadalupe River and accuses operators of ignoring decades of known flood risks. Another alleges the camp focused first on securing equipment rather than evacuating children as waters rose, putting campers in extreme danger, Axios has reported. The lawsuits name Camp Mystic and the Eastland family, who have operated the 99-year-old Christian girls' camp, though the camp said owner Richard Eastland died trying to save campers during the flooding. A Utah judge rejected a Republican-passed redistricting plan on Monday, ruling it did not comply with a 2018 voter-approved measure requiring nonpartisan redistricting standards. The rejected map had created 2 competitive districts, but still favored Republicans. The judge instead approved a plan creating a solidly Democratic district covering Salt Lake City, giving Democrats a second potential win in Utah. The case highlights ongoing battles over partisan gerrymandering, with Republicans seeking to undo the 2018 measure and Democrats making gains elsewhere, including a recent ballot initiative in California, Politico has reported. Former Representative Ben McAdams is considering a run which could make Utah Democrats competitive in Congress for the first time since 2021. A father and daughter, Alexander Worm, 53 years old, and Serena Worm, 22 years old, died Monday in a small plane crash in Coral Springs, Florida, while en route to Jamaica on a hurricane relief mission. The aircraft went down about 5 minutes after takeoff from Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport, striking trees before landing in a waterway. No one on the ground was injured. The Ignite the Fire ministry described Alexander as devoted to humanitarian work, and Serena as following in his footsteps, both exemplifying selflessness and service. They are survived by Alexander's wife, Candace, and their 2 children, James, 17, and Christina, 20, ABC News has reported. Jamaica, still reeling from Hurricane Melissa, continues to face widespread destruction, debris-blocked roads, and damaged homes, slowing relief efforts and restoration of services. A mobile lounge vehicle at Washington Dulles International Airport struck a dock on Monday, injuring 18 passengers with non-life-threatening injuries. The incident occurred around 4:30 p.m. local time as the vehicle approached Concourse D and passengers deboarded via stairs. Emergency personnel evaluated the injured and all were transported to local area hospitals. The cause of the crash and the extent of any damage to the airport infrastructure still remain unclear, Fox News has reported. Dulles International Airport operates 19 mobile lounge vehicles that can carry up to 102 passengers each, and the airport remains open and functioning normally. A violent altercation occurred near the University of California, Berkeley on Monday afternoon before a Turning Point USA event featuring Dr. Frank Turek and Rob Schneider. The fight, which began around 4:30 p.m. local time, left one man with blood streaming from his face and drew a crowd of demonstrators wearing kieffas and carrying left-wing signs. Berkeley police struggled to contain the situation, donning shields and gathering batons. At least 2 people were arrested, including one for battery. The incident occurred off campus. This, according to UC Berkeley officials, Fox News has reported. After the event, protesters surrounded exits, heckled attendees, and shouted obscenities as participants left the area. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries publicly reaffirmed his support for Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer on Monday, despite rising criticism from grassroots activists and some House Democrats over Schumer's inability to prevent a group of Senate Democrats from advancing a deal that reopened the government. Jeffries emphasized that Schumer personally voted against advancing the deal, and then described him as leading the majority of Senate Democrats in a valiant fight over the past 7 weeks. He declined to comment on the 8 senators who supported the deal, saying, quote, "That's their explanation to offer to the American people." Progressive and centrist House Democrats have been far more critical publicly, with Representative Jared Moskowitz mocking Schumer on X. Meanwhile, some moderates praised the deal as meaningful progress toward compromise, Axios has reported. Jeffries indicated the House Democratic Caucus will discuss strategy at a 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time meeting, including whether to whip votes against the bill, but he did not elaborate on potential consequences for members who support the deal. During the government shutdown, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer publicly opposed Republicans while privately urging moderate Democrats not to give in before November. Some moderates were ready to reopen the government 2 weeks into the shutdown, but Schumer persuaded them to wait until the start of the ACA open enrollment. He also signaled to his caucus that he likely would oppose a bipartisan deal pushed by moderates. Ultimately, the moderates decided the cost of the shutdown outweighed the benefit, securing a promise for a December vote on ACA tax credits, Axios has reported. Despite Schumer's stance, 8 Democratic-aligned senators broke ranks to advance the deal, moving toward ending the shutdown. SoftBank sold its entire $5.83 billion stake in NVIDIA and part of its T-Mobile stake for $9.17 billion to fund investments, including a $22.5 billion commitment to OpenAI. The company emphasized that the sales were part of a broader asset monetization strategy and not due to concerns about AI valuations. SoftBank has previously cashed out of NVIDIA but continues to rely on its technology for various AI projects, such as the $500 billion Stargate data center initiative. Analysts stress that the move is driven by funding needs rather than a shift in strategy or a negative view of NVIDIA, CNBC has reported. Overall, the sales provide capital for other ventures while allowing SoftBank to maintain financial strength. CoreWeave shares fell 13% after the CEO cited delays at a third-party data center provider, which caused the company to lower its 2025 revenue guidance to $5.05 to $5.15 billion, which is below analyst estimates. The delays are tied to a, quote, singular data center provider, potentially Core Scientific, though the CEO did not confirm the name of the company. Despite the setbacks, CoreWeave stressed that its 41 data center portfolio and contract backlog remain intact, and teams are working daily to resolve the issues. The company reported strong Q3 revenue of $1.36 billion, which is up 134% from a year ago, CNBC has reported. CoreWeave continues aggressive expansion, securing major AI infrastructure deals with Meta and OpenAI. A female driver in a reportedly stolen silver Toyota Sienna led law enforcement on a multi-county pursuit across Southern California on Monday. The chase began around 10:35 a.m. local time in Thousand Oaks, California, after deputies spotted the vehicle, and it continued east on the 118 freeway and then south on the 405 and the 5 freeways. Officers attempted to stop the minivan with spike strips, but the driver evaded all attempts. The pursuit ended around 1:30 p.m. local time when the vehicle crossed the U.S.-Mexico border, Fox News 11 has reported. Authorities have not provided details on potential extradition or further pursuit. A new species of bee with devil-like horns, named Megachile lucifer, was discovered in Western Australia by Curtin University researchers. The bee was found while surveying a critically endangered wildflower in 2019, and DNA analysts confirmed it did not match any known species of bee. This is the first new member of this bee group described in over 20 years, highlighting how much biodiversity remains undiscovered. The researcher emphasized the importance of documenting native bees, especially in areas threatened by climate change and mining, to protect both the insects and the plants they pollinate, CBS News has reported. The discovery was published in the Journal of Research and coincides with Australia's Pollinator Week, which underscores the vital role of bees in ecosystems. Hey everybody, real quick while you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of our news stories and our live shows. That is our show for today. Like I said, it is going to be a little shorter than usual. I had problems getting the show together this morning. I'll try harder tomorrow. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. I will see everybody tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for another episode of The News with BC, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day.